for Jackson, Clay, John, the practitioners, all of the volunteers, and everybody that it takes to make this building breathe and move like an entity. We're so grateful. We've been through so many changes personally, professionally, just as a group, and we're continuing to unfold in new and different ways, not better, because there wasn't anything wrong and there never is. But Spirit is an ever moving, breathing thing, and it is continually unfolding, and sometimes moving away from the thing that we're tied to can be quite uncomfortable. And but when we set new intentions, then new things must happen, and it forces us to look at how we think and how we're moving and having our being. And so that happens, at a personal level, and a professional, in a group, in a community. So living an intentional life is something that came out of having conversations with Tracey when he was here, and continued conversations. And I told you I love the idea of being an attentionist. And I was like, well, what does that really mean? And how can we do that with a current belief system that doesn't align with maybe we can't believe that we can have what we want, or maybe we're afraid that it won't come to be. Maybe we don't like the work that it would take to actually make it come to be. Maybe you don't have enough people. See, there's maybe. And so really what comes to us is that these are all belief systems or frameworks for the mind. Now, I don't know about you, but when I set an intention, Spirit has shown me and proven to me time and time again that what you want, you will get. Always. Amen. Always. And I was, as I continue to look at a new and different way of being and discovering the different frameworks of how I view the world, which I've always and try to be completely honest when I can, I began to see, there is my mom, when she was talking about her body, she was talking about it like it didn't belong to her. So she's in this phrase, she's like, last night she said, I'm seeing through these eyes. And I thought that was so interesting, through these eyes, not my eyes. She's starting to disassociate that the body, the mind, that there's something that is aware of these things. And this is the thing that we're learning about, but who we actually are. And so when we set an intention, this awareness informs us. But when we're raised to have a framework based on the different experiences that we've had in life, that unfolding can sometimes be very painful. I have learned that it's called a healing crisis, that we go through a healing crisis, and that is starting to see how we have framed the world. And when you have that, oh my God, I didn't know I believed that moment, you start to recognize how everything is built off a central and core frame, and then it kind of trickles down into different belief systems. And the beauty of the people that come into our lives that we might have discord with show us where those frameworks are and belief systems are. And I've always said it doesn't mean that that person is or isn't this or that. But what love does show us by the people we meet is where we need to come in contact with something within ourselves. Now, Tracey, just like you, we all have a framework and an identity, and Tracey can be kind of neurotic, and she's very picky about food, and she's a little dramatic at times, and she has different frameworks, and as those scaffoldings fall, I'm always so surprised that I'm here still, honestly. And what I've learned is Tracey really is, she's not so consequential in the grand scheme of things, that it's better to just let her do what she does. So otherwise there's a resistance that happens, and a blaming that happens. And this is where we start to see the crisis of the mind, where we think, oh, I shouldn't be that, or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't do that, or you start to put on masks and you start to wear them very proudly, like I need to be this to that person and this to that person, and something inside feels not quite comfortable, and you lack vulnerability in heart. So as I thought about the talk today, and I definitely have one written up, always when I'm sitting there meditating, Spirit was like, not so fast. And so I really wanted to talk about setting intentions and to be very vulnerable, and to really say that living from the heart is truly who we are and what we do. It's the framework that we give more conscious attention to. And when we start to let that go, life can be a little disorienting, and we can even go into a little bit of a depression because we've banked so much of our lives on what we believe to be true. And when you watch somebody, and maybe you've had the experience of sitting with somebody who is passing. I personally haven't had that much experience. Both of my parents are still living. I did get to sit with one of our members when they were near passing, and that was such a beautiful thing. And what you start to see is nothing matters. My mom has these conversations now about divvying up what little assets that she has, and she considers those her gift. And we had conversations about, well, what picture do you want? And she's been all over the world. My dad was in the military. She has Yardros and Hummels, and she has alabaster grapes, and she has furniture from Belgium, and a trunk full of things. And she's like, you guys don't want any of it? And I was like, no, we don't want any of it. And so she's like, well, just take one thing to remember me by. And of course, we will. But what's interesting to me is how much happiness these things brought her for the short period of time. And that now that she's facing leaving or transitioning out, these things aren't so important anymore. And the things that become important are sitting bedside and saying what you need to say, and owning things that you need to own, and telling your mommy that you love her and that she's been a great mommy no matter what has happened, because anything before this moment is no longer here. And so then I started to think, how do we do this with our relationships when people are around us, and how our framework ties us to discord sometimes? I don't know about you, but my personality can be tied to discord because my framework has been survival. My framework of has been, my self-preservation strategy is get her done, let's do it, build, go, and my specialty hasn't been, let's sit down and talk. That's not Tracey. You probably won't get that from her too often. But as something gives way and those scaffoldings start to fall, those frameworks start to fall away, and the heart is a little bit more present because that's our true nature, this beautiful thing starts to happen as these things show up. Abundance, because that's what you are. Now, when Trini said, I don't know if you heard him, but different things, if you were here in his conversation, he said something like, I've died to myself to be in the flow. And I don't know, but that stood with me. Like, I die to myself to be in the flow. And what he was saying is that my true nature is all that I am, and who I present myself to you will be dependent on the framework in which you move and have your being in this world. He also said, I am the medicine. And what he's saying there is the medicine is my truth, my nature, that I show up with my heart open wide, and that you may call me teacher or curado or shaman, but I consider myself an intentionist. And I give my life through active service, because I think he said something like, what I give to you, I get back. And by helping you, I become, who I am. It feeds me, that he uses the reciprocity of life to move and have his being. And I was so, if you were in his presence for any period of time, you felt the calmness and the heart. And if you got to have a conversation with him, you met a being that was so beautiful and emitted love at such a high frequency that I don't know, but I at one moment just broke down and cried because I felt like he could see Tracey. And you know what? He could, and he loved her. And by him loving that personality, it showed me that it's possible for her to be loving, and that who she is and how she became that way it's inconsequential. What is important is how we show up, how we listen, how things are heard, and for us to know and take responsibility when something is running through our framework. Because we can't set intentions to have the life that we want. We will always keep having the same life unless we start taking responsibility for the life that we've created. And I don't know about you, but that word responsibility really scares me a little bit. One of the things that I've discovered about myself is I have to be good enough. I have to succeed. I have to be the person that you need me to be so that we don't fail or make mistakes. And I really wasn't taught that making mistakes was okay. And the truth is they are. But if you can imagine being raised that way, then you're always trying, you would be the person who's trying to impress, or you'd be the person who's trying to do the right thing. And maybe blame, shame, and fear and guilt are a part of that framework for somebody who was brought up that way. And when that starts to get shown to you, it's kind of scary because it has been your safety preservation strategy for so long. And when it starts to fall away, you have nothing else to grasp onto. You have nothing to hold on to. And this reality comes, and it is very different and disorienting. So as I set the intention to be awake and aware and to be a loving presence, well, you can't do that if you don't see the ways you're not. And if you don't see the ways you're not, then you will always gather the same thing. Interesting thing happened, I'm at the hospital till 1 a.m. My mom's like, "Did you write your sermon?" I go, "Well, it's a talk." She's Catholic. And I go, "No, but you know what? I trust that the right thing will come." And so I did write a talk, but I've kind of left it alone. And when I was walking out the door this morning, I have this old library cart. When you're in school and they had those metal library carts and that had all those lovely books, I decided one day I needed to find one on Facebook, so I sent the intention, and I always find, this is something, if you know me, know that if I set an intention to find something, it will manifest, and we will get it. I take great pride in that, by the way. But so, there was a book sitting, and I don't know, Esty must have got in the books, and as I was walking out, for some reason, this book was sitting in the top of the pile, and I don't know where I got it from. I don't know when I bought it. It has a tag on it, so it came from Thrifty Books. So I must have ordered it. I must have thought it was a good book, but I never picked it up and opened it. But why does this keep happening to me? Is the name of the book, again. And I thought, before we can talk about intention as an individual, as a person, as a family, as a community, as a job, we have to know why this is happening to me again. Because usually the intention is so that this stops happening. If I get what I want, this won't happen to me again. If I just get that job, if I just get that house, if I just get that person to like me, if I just become the greatest minister ever, then whatever. And when that doesn't happen, you get kind of fussy, right? Instead of setting the intention to become awake and aware at all the things that are preventing me from seeing who I actually am. And as I opened this book, I thought I could open this book to any point and we could have a conversation about it. And so I thought this was really beautiful because they all line with our teaching. In Aramaic, it is said that in order to live, you had to die. This may sound like a ridiculous statement, but when you see that the old self, the false, the disempowering self has to go or die for the true self to live, it makes perfect sense because it is a death of sorts. And that was really the message of Trini, is when he said, I had died in myself to be in the flow, we all have to lose the framework. And it's so powerful because as I was reading this book, and I do highly suggest it actually, he says the blockage of truth, and mind is in denial literally, and mind, I can read. I am not in the third grade standing in front of the teacher right now. I am safe. A mind in denial literally hides information from itself. It does not see information contrary to what it believes. Isn't that interesting? The mind does not see information contrary to what it believes, so it will always see what it believes. And the problem is we don't always know what we believe because we're living it, right? What we do is get discord that's showing us, but unless we look at ourselves and take responsibility as to why this keeps happening to me, then we're always going to blame. And by blaming, we give our power away. We make other people more powerful than we are, and we're basically allowing that person to accelerate our growth. And so we must have tools, sometimes teachers, to show us and point the way. You torture yourself and make healing impossible by holding on to blame. Now, this is a framework that I've seen recently, and I'm digging into it more and more, so I don't really like to go into too much about myself until I've kind of come out on the other side. But I will say that the framework, one of the frameworks that I saw that is collapsing is blame, but it's more blame of myself for not being good enough. That ever since I was a little girl, I have blamed myself for not being good enough. I remembered the stories of standing in front of the teacher and her, I think I've talked about this, youthful experience, and as that framework starts to fall, what you see first is how it was built. When you sit and listen to your mom, when you truly listen, you can see the innocence of her words, that she had no idea how powerful they were, even though they stung. That my father, as I drove him to the hospital and wanted to open the door and push him out, because he was driving me crazy. That was a joke. I would never push my father out of the car. But he was so nervous, and he was in so much pain, and he's so afraid to be alone. I could start to see how that framework was built. I watched it in action, and within it rose this complete and utter compassion for him. That he did the best job that he could do in raising me. And I have spent my whole life fighting who I've become instead of just allowing her to be okay and not measure myself by what everybody thinks and says, and just let Tracey have a break and to allow the truth of my being to come to the forefront, that it's always there. And as the structures and the framework fall, the beautiful thing is the heart is exposed. The heart is exposed when we let the old stories go, and we start to see how we use these preservation strategies to protect ourselves. And the honest moment of vulnerability is so scary, because in my mind it seizes as like, I'm not going to let them have that. But I don't even know that I'm doing it, because a mind that is living from its framework isn't always conscious of its framework. So it's not a conscious representation of push and pull. It's, this doesn't feel good and I don't like it. Why does it keep happening to me again? And until we take it really, really seriously, that there is a way out of the matrix, until we see that, this doesn't mean that every person in our being is going to change. Every person in our realm is going to change. What it does is gives them the freedom to be themselves, so they can see their own framework. And then once we see the framework, then we no longer take things personally, and then blame loses its power. And then what comes from that is genuine, authentic curiosity, inquiry, so that you can be the light of your being. And they may not get it, and they might leave, and that's okay. People leave. They leave for their own reasons, because of their discomfort. They leave because they can no longer handle the discomfort of being in front of you. But it doesn't mean that you're wrong because they leave. It doesn't mean that we're wrong because they leave. It's just sometimes we have to give people the space to find their own way. And what I have learned is that is love. And it doesn't feel like it sometimes. But when the safety preservations fall away, the truth of your being comes to the forefront. And that mind, that denial that hides itself, it falls away, and then what's truly left is the truth of your being, and then we can engage in forgiveness. And forgiveness that I saw you through my framework, through my structure, through my pain, my wounds, my not enoughness, my. And then when that falls away, people get to be who they are, and then you see their pain. And then you get to share in the beauty of who they really are. And this is what, practitioners do. They see the framework in which you're living, and they find the kindest and most gentlest way to point you in the right direction. And I tell you, wherever you have the most resistance is where the most work is. And how do you know resistance? It's when you go, oh, let me see if I could do my little 18-month-old. No. I'm like, no, Mom, no. And you'll know that feeling because it just closes everything inside of you. And what's so scary is when everything inside of you opens, you feel like you're a moving target for everybody's arrows. But what you realize is let them shoot. Let them land. Because it doesn't matter anyway, none of it's true. They're all lies that we've taken on as a way and a measure to protect ourselves. But the beauty of life, the bliss that Tracey and all teachers talk about, is letting those scaffoldings fall. But first we have to find them, we have to look at them, we have to be honest about them, and it's a private conversation with oneself. It's a private conversation between you and yourself. And if you're like me, when you discover it, you like to tell everybody that you found it because you're so excited that everybody should know what you know because it will work for you. But the truth is that's just another preservation strategy. Look what I saw. You can like me now. No. And that's okay, because that's perfect too. Everything has a time, a place, and a season. And what I have learned is we are growing flowers. And flowers that chokes out the weeds. John talks about his back 40 and all of his flowers. I love hearing him talk about his flowers. He has such passion for his flowers. And I've never seen his yard, but every time he talks about it, I close my eyes and imagine sitting in his field of flowers. I feel like that's the most beautiful place anybody could be. And as I'm sitting there, there's nothing else but the heart. And that is my dream, to me, is what humanity is really looking for. We're looking to wake up to the heart. We're looking to see how we always end up in the same place again. That's why people are drawn to a place like this. That's why we have classes and we invite new speakers, because everybody's framework is different. So what I might reach and somebody else might reach is different. So I love to bring different ways of being and seeing and doing. And it might not all be for you, and that's okay. But there is something for you because you're here. So there is something that's whispering inside of you, wake up now, you're safe. And as we learn to do that, we'll set intentions by our visions, our values, our mission, and the universe will bring that energy to us, because the same energy that is in resistance brings to you. And what we want to do is let that go. And as a group, as an entity, we want to bring new energy in, and we have been. We're doing well. And, that's kind of scary too, is that we can be doing well while things are changing. Because we yearn for the old. As I sat with my mom, there was one night that I cried and I cried. I couldn't cry anymore. And this little girl came out that just wanted her mommy. And my mom was stroking my hair. The more she stroked my hair, the more I cried. And I was like, I just want my mom. I just wanted that feeling my whole life. That hug that your mom gives you when you're in so much pain. And that's what I want as a friend to you, as a spiritual leader, as a practitioner, is for you to feel the warm hug and embrace, and to understand when I fall short of that, it's okay, because we all do. And I know that true forgiveness is being empathetic to the preservation strategies that we all carry. And to set the intention to move forward is to realize that we already are that. We just need to let the false fall away. And that all that will be revealed to you is beauty. And while it's disorienting and we're in the healing crisis, that we lift each other up with a gentle hug and a kind word. It's so easy to be mean. It's so easy to gossip. It's so easy to do all of those things. But it takes a tremendous toll on the soul. I want this to be a place where people come and feel safe. And I have to lead the way with doing that. And that's something that has been revealed to me. And we're allowed to make mistakes. And we're allowed to try again. And we're allowed to say, I'm sorry. And we're allowed to listen. And with that, we'll close with prayer. I will say, I love you. I love you. I see you. And everything is always okay, even at the end. I just know right here, right now, that there is only one truth, one everlasting, beautiful, honest, living truth, the light of the living being, always giving birth to itself, to know itself greater. And that as it enters into the world as a being and it takes on these attributes of joy and sorrow, right and wrong and good and bad, confusion and conflict, that there is always something whispering when we get very still that says, come home now. And we start to follow that after a lifetime, this one or the next, or maybe deep suffering or pain, financial problems, health. And what these things do is they draw us back unto ourselves so we can start to inquire, who am I? And as that inquiry deepens, we start to gain the tools to look, to see. The beautiful thing about God or reality is that it has manifested itself in so many different ways for so many different people to take the journey. And all it requires is a gentle yes, which is a surrender. Sometimes confusion leads to the most beautiful road. And as we walk that road, we put to bed the things that keep us from ourselves. The illusion is cast out. The doubt, the fear, the anger, the hate, the confusion, the crisis. We see it for what it is. And we shine the light of love on it. That there is nothing to hate. Absolutely nothing. That when we shine the light of love from the heart, all is revealed. All is shattered. And what remains is the flower. Not grasp tightly holding it, but allowing it to open and bloom so that we can truly know a life beyond the objective world and live in it, but not of it. That this is the true beauty of spirit. These are the true teachings of Ernest Holmes, is to how to undogmatize the pain and the conflict and the struggle. And as we take classes, we release what is not ours. The thing that binds us sets us free. And for that, we are eternally grateful. For I am the flow, I am the medicine, I am the shaman in my own life. I am the cure, I am the answer, I am the revealing, and I am the truth. I am the light, and I am the way. I release these words into the law, knowing that I have set the intention for this community, for each and every person in here, that the heart and the awakening is yours. And that as things are revealed to you, you are held safely in the arms and the hands of the loving one, which is you. That there is nothing unlike that. And the last thing Trini said to me in my conversation was, in capital letters on WhatsApp, no fear ever. And as we step into that truth, as we step into that revealing, as we step into that light, and everything unlike it is cast out, I claim this for you and everyone you know, for myself and for the world. Wake up now. Wake up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. Knowing all is well. With the deepest of gratitude, I release it, and so it is.